Bonjour! For 7.2, we're going to learn about direct object pronouns. So let's break this down to understand what these are. First, a direct object. So it's the object in the sentence, and it's the object of a verb in the sentence, and it answers the question what or whom. So let's put that into context because it sounds confusing, but it's really pretty simple. How about the dog ate the paper? The subject is the dog. The dog is what's doing the eating. But what is being eaten? That is the paper. The dog ate, there's our verb, the paper. So the paper is the direct object of that verb. It is what the verb, it's the answer to the question what when you see the verb. The dog ate, ... Everyone's waiting. What? What did the dog eat? The paper. There's our direct object. So first, that's the really important thing to understand, what the direct object is in a sentence at all. Then we need to use our pronouns. So if we say the dog ate the paper, and we're continuing our conversation about this, we're not always going to say the dog ate the paper, I saw him eat the paper, I saw him eat the paper last night. At some point in the sentence, we're going to stop saying paper, and we're going to replace it with a pronoun. Like, for instance, it. The dog ate it. So that is a pronoun, something that replaces the noun, and so we don't have to keep saying the paper, the paper, the paper all over again. And we also have other pronouns that you've seen, like I or he or she. So instead of saying someone's name, we can say he or she. Instead of naming everybody in a group, we can say they. Those are other kinds of pronouns. The pronouns that we're looking at, that we're focusing on, are our direct object pronouns. So again, the ones that answer the question what or whom when you see a verb acting onto something. So, let's see. What are they? What do they look like? Not very different from some of the other things that we've seen with the reflexive pronouns. We have m, t. Here's where it gets a little different. The or la. So you can imagine masculine and feminine. Nous, vous, and maybe you can guess the plural of le and la are les. So these are our direct object pronouns. They look similar to our reflexive pronouns that we've seen. So now we need to replace things. Just like we do in English, instead of the dog ate the paper, the dog ate it. Let's look at another similar example. So, je mange la pomme. I am eating the apple. We're going to take our the apple and replace it with our pronoun, the direct object pronoun. Remember, I am eating the apple. What is this person eating? What? The apple. So that's how we know it's the direct object. So where do we put it? We don't say je mange la. In English, we can say that I'm eating it. But in French, when you use a direct object pronoun, you have to move where it goes. You say je la mange. Okay? It needs to go before the verb that's acting on it. Okay? What are you eating? Again, what? It is the apple. Now, if you have the passé composé, you need to put it before the auxiliary. So how about, let's use the same example. I ate it. So we would say, first, let's look at the regular form, the written out one. J'ai mangé la pomme. I ate the apple. Now we replace this with our direct object pronoun, la, and we put it before, still, our conjugated verb, our auxiliary verb. Je l'ai mangé. Now, I'm going to get into something here that you have to watch out for. This is a little tricky. When we have our direct object pronoun before our verb, it's before our verb, okay? the past participle has to agree with it. So again, we have I'll explain this. This takes a little bit of concentration here. When you are talking about in the past tense here, and we're just going to focus on that, the past tense, or you have another example when you use a past participle. We haven't learned all the tenses yet, so just for right now, when we have the past participle here, specifically in the passé composé, that's just what we're focused on, and you put a direct object pronoun before it in the sentence, this past participle, the part of the verb, you have to almost treat like it's an adjective now. So, the adjectives, remember, they have to look at the nouns that they kind of are paired with. This is not a noun and an adjective, but we're going to treat it that way. We have to agree. So you'll see, what was this L apostrophe? It was talking about la pomme, it's feminine. We need to add an extra E. So if we were saying, I ate the apples, then here we would say, je les ai mangés. We would add an E and an S. All right, so that's one thing. We have to remember, the past participle agrees with, just like an adjective agrees with its noun, past participle agrees with a direct object pronoun that's before it. Now let's look at something else here. We talked about the present tense. We talked about the passé composé specifically. Let's look at the futur proche, okay, with our infinitive. So I am going to eat it. Je vais manger la pomme. Again, a direct object pronoun that goes with a feminine singular object is la. And this time we're not going to put it before the conjugated verb here. We need to put it before the verb that is affecting this object. So again, you're not going the apple, you're eating the apple. So it needs to be closer, just before the verb that is affecting this object. All right, next, let's make it negative. The ne goes before the object pronoun. So in this case, we don't have to worry about it too much. Je ne vais pas la manger. Okay, not too difficult. But let's look at the past tense now. Let's go back. We said, je l'ai mangé. I ate it. The ne needs to go before the object pronoun. So, je ne l'ai pas mangé. Okay? The ne just goes before that here. Here, remember, I am not going to eat it. And here, I didn't eat it. There's a lot of things to keep track of. There are a lot of things. The main rule is to try to keep this as close to the verb phrase that affects it as possible. So to eat is this one. And I didn't eat, remember this whole phrase, et manger, really needs to fit together. So the L apostrophe goes before that. Last two tiny little notes is when you're saying, for instance, help me. So remember me here. Help me. We have aide moi. So our direct object pronoun needs to go after our verb this time. If you're saying to do something, it needs to go after the verb. And me and te, you would use moi and toi. So like help yourself, aide-toi, help me, aide-moi, but then help it, or help him, aide-le, or aide-nous, help us. So nothing, the other ones wouldn't change. And what if we're saying negative? Negative, it just goes really back to normal. You don't have to use the moi and the toi. It would be ne m'aide pas. So we have the negative, and this goes just like we talked about already before the verb.